So every once in a while, you'll come across a story in the Bible and the reaction is, what? Is that really in the Bible? Does the Bible really say that? Well, today we're going to look at a story in the Bible that kind of fits into that category. The story is found in 2 Samuel chapter 13, and it's basically about two people, Amnon and Tamar or Tamar. Tamar is kind of the anglicized way to say her name, and that's probably the one I'll go with today. But the truth of the matter is these two people were essentially siblings. They had the same father, King David, but different mothers. And there's debate. This makes them technically half brother and half sister. There's some that think that maybe Tamar was a stepsister. Without going into the details of it, I'm not really sure about that, but there are some folks that kind of try to lean that way. But here's the deal. You've got two people who are young adults now as this story is going to unfold. They've grown up basically together. They were essentially brother and sister. Okay. And this is the way the story starts in 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1. In the course of time, Amnon, son of David, and here's the three key words, fell in love with Tamar, the beautiful sister of Absalom, son of David. Now, fell in love. This is going to be the question mark. This is the key issue of the story. Does Amnon really love her, or is it something else? Well, you start to wonder about it when you go to verse 2. It says, Amnon became, now look at this expression, frustrated to the point of illness. So we're talking about an obsessive emotion that he has. You could almost say he's got the hots for his sister, okay? He's frustrated to the point of illness on account of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And then look at this expression. And it seemed impossible for him to do anything to her. Now, this is maybe one of your earlier indicators in the story that we're not talking about love, but we're talking about something else. Because if you love somebody, you don't want to do something to them. You want to do something with them. You want to do something for them. But to say he's frustrated because he can't do anything to her seems to indicate, I'm not so sure this is really love. Now, the story has a twist. Amnon had a friend named Jonadab, son of Shemiah, David's brother. I guess essentially Jonadab is Amnon's first cousin, not just a friend. Jonadab was a very shrewd man, and he asked Amnon, Bubba, why do you, the king's son, look so haggard morning after morning? Talk to me. Won't you tell me what's going on with you, buddy? And Amnon said to him, I'm in love with Tamar. Now, he doesn't want to call Tamar his sister, although he will later in the story. It's my brother Absalom's sister. My half-brother Absalom's sister is what he's trying to say. So here's the plan. Jonadab has a shrewd plan. He says, I want you to go to bed and pretend to be ill. And here's where ding, 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 ding. There ought to be bells and whistles going off, because if you love somebody, you don't pretend, you don't lie, you don't deceive. But Jonadab's plan is, I want you to go home, go to bed, act like you're ill, and when your daddy comes to see you, Daddy David, you say to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in my sight so I may watch her and then eat it from her hand. Okay, well, Amnon likes this little pretend plan. And so it says he laid down and he pretended to be ill. And when King David came to see him, and by the way, he's oblivious to what's going on here, Amnon said to him, I would like my sister Tamar to come and make some special bread for me and my side so I may eat it from her hand. Maybe she'll chew it up for me and give, that's not in there, but I thought I'd just throw it in. David sent word to Tamar at the palace, I want you to go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So, Tamar's an obedient daughter. Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was lying down. She took some dough, kneaded it, made the bread in his sight, baked it. Then she took the pan and served him the bread. Everything seems kind of normal here. It's going to get a little uncomfortable. But he refused to eat. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to bring this to you. Send everyone out of here, Amnon said. So everyone left him. Everyone but Tamar. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food here into my bedroom so I might eat from your hand. And Tamar took the bread she had prepared and brought it to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she took it to him to eat, he grabbed her and he said, come to bed with me, my sister. Now she's his sister. Don't, my brother, she said. Don't force me. Such a thing should not be done in Israel. Don't do this wicked thing. Now we're beginning to see that whatever it is that Amnon is feeling towards Tamar, it's not love. Because if you love somebody, you don't force them. If you love somebody, you don't strong arm them. You don't manipulate them. If you love somebody, you don't push them to do things that they don't want to do. You see, Amnon doesn't really love Tamar. He doesn't care about her future. He doesn't care about her life. He doesn't care about her virginity. He doesn't care about her integrity. He doesn't care about her future. Amnon doesn't love Tamar. He loves himself. And he wants what he can get from her. That's what's going on there. This is lust, not love. Verse 13, she starts to reason with him. But what about me? I mean, where could I get rid of my disgrace? And what about you? You'd be like one of the wicked fools in Israel. Please speak to the king. He will not keep me from being married to you. Let me say something. If they are actually technically half brother and sister, this is incest. This would be an inappropriate relationship. Okay? She's probably just grasping for straws. She's looking for something, Look at his response. He refused to listen to her. And since he was stronger than she, he raped her. Amnon doesn't care about Tamar's feelings. He only cares about himself. And he does violence to her in this story. And look at the irony of verse 15. After he got what he wanted, Amnon hated her with intense hatred. In fact, he hated her more than he had loved her. Amnon said to her, get up and get out. Isn't this crazy? He loved her until he got what he wanted from her. And once he had his way with her, he was done with her. Get out of here. Get out of here. She says, no, sending me away would be a greater wrong than what you've already done to me. But again, he doesn't care about her. He doesn't care about her feelings. And he refused to listen to her. And the story ends with this statement. This part of the story ends with this statement. He called his personal servant, said, get this woman out of here and bolt the door after her. You see, when we're talking about lust, it's fake love. Lust or fake love is self-centered. Lust or fake love is all about your desires, what you feel, what you want, And In fact, I'd go a step further. If you've ever thought these statements or said these statements out loud, I just want to be happy. I just want to find someone who can make me happy. Let me tell you, those are all rooted in a fake love. These are selfish statements. Yet I hear these a lot in people. Well, I just want to be happy. Or I want to find somebody who will make me happy. That's not a love statement. That's a self-centered, personal desire-oriented statement. You see, the real thing, the real love is not self-centered, it's other-centered. It's not rooted in my desires and my needs, but it's rooted in how can I help you? How can I love you? What can I do for you? Real love is devoted to the other person's happiness. Real love is devoted to blessing them, strengthening them, giving your best to them, the best of your life, the best of your time, the best of your energy. What can I do to lift you and make your life better? That's real love. That's what's missing in this story. In fact, if we go back to the story of Amnon and Tamar, just to pull it all together, all these emotions together. Lust is often irrational. This was forbidden fruit, but Amnon was so obsessed with his sister. In fact, lust is frequently irrationally obsessive. He was sick. He was so obsessively lustful towards her that it made him sick, And when you have lust, what you do is you don't serve people. You don't love people. You don't care for people. You use people to get what you want, to make you feel good. You say, I'm frustrated because I can't think of anything to do to her. I can't figure out how I can have her, Lust is deceptively manipulative. He tricks her, tricks his dad, He used deception to manipulate. Lust is pushy and demanding. He forced himself upon her. He didn't care about her feelings. He just wanted what he wanted. And of course, lust is also emotionally fickle. When a person is being guided by lust, and then they finally get their satisfaction, all of a sudden they don't really care for that person, They don't really care for them. See, that's lust. But let's look at a contrasting picture of love. Love would be honest. You'd realize, okay, maybe I've got some stupid feelings, but this is not right. When you love somebody, you shut her down, when you should. Love is patient with boundaries. Love is supportive, not using people, supportive of people. Love respects people, is sacrificial, not demanding of their own stuff. Love is stable and secure. You see, I think one of the sad facts about our American culture today is that too many of us don't know how to love. We've been trained by the culture to lust. And we don't know how to really love somebody. Now, what I'm doing with this message today is I'm continuing this series that I started 6 weeks ago on the 7 deadly sins. And we looked at over the last 5 weeks, greed and gluttony and sloth and envy, and last week, wrath or anger. And today, we're going to look at lust. We're going to start to peel off the layers of lust. What I'm going to try to do is help you see the shallowness of lust, the ugliness sometimes of lust, the destructiveness of lust. And my ultimate goal is to help you see the beauty of love, real love, a beautiful love. C.S. Lewis wrote a book several years ago called The Four Loves. And he looks at 4 different Greek words in the Bible that talk about love. And in the book, he tells a story about a man. It's an imaginary story, a lustful man who one evening is prowling the streets. He's prowling the streets because we could say he wants a woman, He wants a woman. But is that really what he wants? Listen to C.S. Lewis's insightful observation here. He says, strictly speaking, a woman is just what he does not want. This is what he wants. He wants a pleasure. He wants a pleasure for which a woman happens to be the necessary piece of apparatus. See, with lust, you're not looking for a depth of relationship. With lust, you're looking for an experience, a feeling, with a pleasure. He says, now love makes a man really want not a woman. Love makes us want a particular woman. In some mysterious but quite indisputable fashion, the lover desires the beloved herself, not the pleasure she can give. And then I love the way he summarizes these two paragraphs with this statement. To summarize, love wants a person. Lust wants a feeling, an experience. Love wants to connect. Love wants a meaningful relationship, and a meaningfully intimate relationship with a person. Lust just wants to feel good, you know. Lust reduces a person to a commodity, you know, an object. The person becomes an object for pleasure, to make me feel good. What lust does is it separates the person from the pleasure they can give. And once I get the pleasure, I don't care about the person. You know, it's selfish, you know. And I think this is a cultural problem for us. I think this is a 21st century modern problem that we are wrestling with today. I came across another interesting observation from one of Philip Yancey's books, Rumors of Another World. And in the book, he tells a story about a medical missionary, a physician, a doctor who'd been serving on the continent of Africa for years. And where he was serving was a very primitive area, cut off from much of the modern world, no internet, no Wi-Fi, hardly even telephones. And it was hard work. It was an intensely difficult setting to do ministry. And after several years of doing this, the guy comes back to the United States for a furlough. And what happens to him is like a culture shock. It says the first thing that struck him when he got back into Western civilization was how everything was about sex. Every story, every movie on the plane had a sexual plot central to it. And when he got into the airport, all the magazines were basically about how to have better sex or who looked better while having sex. It was disorienting to him. Particularly because he'd been in a place where the majority of people were nude, or at least partially nude, but non-sexualized. It says here in the U.S. or here in the West, we're clothed, but fully sexualized as people. Now, the next statement that he makes as a part of this paragraph, I've separated it out because I want you to really think about it. He says, we are discipled by our desires, or in our desires, by the people that we're around. And maybe I might stretch it a little bit further. We are discipled in our desires by our culture within which we live. And, when a society is increasingly sexualized, our desires are discipled to be sexualized. Part of the challenge with lust is it is discipling a generation of young people in the church to normalize sexual sin. In other words, we're beginning to believe as a culture, maybe we already have got there, that lust is normal and that lust is good simply because it's everywhere. Again, I think there are an increasing number of people within our culture who just don't know how to love. And we don't know how to love because we've been trained to lust. Swipe one way or the other. I don't even know what that means, but swipe We're a culture built around pornography. We're a culture built around lust, not loving relationships, but lust. And Jesus speaks to this in his Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 5, verse 27. He says, you have heard that it was said, it's back in the Old Testament, back in the Bible, Old Testament of the Bible. You've heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. Of course, this is a statement from the 10 Commandments. It's kind of like last week's sermon on anger. Jesus said, you've heard that it was said by people long ago, you shall not commit murder. And then he goes on to say, murder is, if that's the line, he said, I don't even want you to be angry. I want you to learn how to deal with your anger before you even get to the place of murder. And this is sort of the same line of reasoning Jesus is going to use here. You've heard that it was said, you shall not physically commit adultery. But then he's going to talk about something before that. But I tell you, and this is again that ego del ego, I tell you, this is an emphatic statement by Jesus, that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So the point that Jesus is making here is that, we can think that adultery is a bad deal. Maybe we can see that. But what he's wanting us to understand is that what we've got to learn how to control is how we think about the opposite sex. Stop lusting. Stop fantasizing. Stop imagining yourself with somebody with whom you're not married. Stop that, the point is he's making, you can commit adultery in your heart. That's an issue. That's a problem that our culture really, really wrestles with. And our culture thinks this is perfectly all right. The next two verses that Jesus, the statement that he makes in the next two verses, they're hard. And they're hard because we usually misunderstand them. And I would say we misinterpret the language and intent of them. In verses 29 and 30, he says, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Now, the problem of this statement by Jesus is that some people want to take it literally, but this cannot be what Jesus is talking about. This is an example in literature of hyperbole. Hyperbole is when you make an exaggerated statement to make another point. And the reason this has to be hyperbole is that you can cut your eye out, and guess what? You can still lust, even if you don't have an eye. You can cut your hand off, and guess what? In the context, this is all about lust. You can cut your right hand off, and you'll still lust. Those don't take it away. So what he's getting at, the point that he's making is that when you have a problem with lust, you've got to learn how to deal decisively with the lust-inducing temptations. Whatever it is that's generating lust in you, you got to figure it out and deal decisively with it. For example, it might mean quitting a job where the temptation is. Maybe there's somebody that you're working with that's creating problems for you. An illicit relationship. You may need to quit that job. You may need to break off a tempting friendship. Can't meet with that couple anymore because this is a problem. You may have to move back to a flip phone instead of a smartphone. Gasp. Can you imagine that? Maybe your smartphone has become a real problem for you with lust. You may need to go back to a flip phone. You may need to cut off even the internet altogether. Maybe, or cut off a certain app. If there's an app that's creating problems for you, get rid of it. That's the point that Jesus is making. You may need to get covenant eyes to put on all of your devices. This is an accountability, a bit of software to help you, to make you accountable to somebody you trust with regard to your issues of lust. You may just simply need to find some kind of an accountability partner. And then lastly, obviously there's many, many other things we could talk about. These are just some simple suggestions of how to deal decisively with lust-inducing temptations. Not pulling your eye out, not cutting your hand off, but break free from the things that are at the root of your lust. And there's one more thing I want to mention, and I think that this is really important, and it's something I pray about in my own life frequently, is I want to rediscover my love relationship with Jesus. I want to come to the place where Lord, I want to know you, love you. I want to love what's important to you more than life itself. Lord, I want to honor you with everything that I am. I want to be closer to you. And Jesus said this one time in John chapter 14. He says, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And the mindset here, the idea here is that if I can come to the place where Jesus is number one in my life, then that helps me make decisions about other things that are temptations in my life. And so I would just challenge you today. What about your relationship with God? What about your capacity to love? Maybe for some of us, what we need to relearn how to do is how to really love the people around us. And instead of using them, instead of manipulating them, instead of forcing them, what we want to learn how to do is how to love them the way Jesus would love them. God, help us to love and not be driven by lust. Let's pray. Lord, I pray that you'll take this kind of simple, basic message that comes from some powerful passages in the Bible and Lord, use it to speak to us deeply. Help us to make some commitments today that push us towards love and not lust. In Jesus' name I pray.